Always a pleasure. I will tell you that if I were not able to deal with arrogance, I couldn't have stayed in politics very long. So I'm going to ask a couple of people to come up together. Michael Mioza, thank you, John Keppel, and Kyle Hentz. If you could, there are 3 seats, if you'd all come up. And again, I do not mean to denigrate anyone's participation, but especially not somebody who showed up with crutches on. You got my sympathy, sir. But again, if you could limit your conversation as much as possible, I'd appreciate it. Thank you. And identify yourself before you speak, and I'd appreciate it. We will start to my left, your right, the gentleman there. If you'd identify yourself and proceed. The button up for mic on. Okay.
Chairman Levesque, members of the LNG task force, thank you for the opportunity that you've given me to present testimony today. I'd like to direct you, Chairman, to my prepared testimony, which is in the packet that you have. I'm a longtime Rhode Island resident, a lifelong sailor. I ran Shake a Leg in Newport at Fort Adams for 3 years. It's an adaptive program for disabled sailors. My ancestor on my mother's side, John Maxon, was the first blacksmith to settle on Aquidneck Island, and my family has cared for a farm in Westerly for over 100 years. The theme of my testimony is this bay is not for sale. First section, a little bit about the littlest state in the Union. The wealth that is Rhode Island is in large measure flows from the integrity of the great Narragansett Bay, one of the finest waterways in the world. The fact is, the character of this state, though small in physical stature, is grand in spirit, and that spirit, that character, is derived in large measure from its bay. And this would be changed forever, I believe, with this LNG proposal that's being put forward by Hess Oil. Rhode Islanders and our neighbors in Massachusetts know this well about the Bay. The Bay is a priceless treasure to us all and is the basis of our security and our identity economically and ecologically. Hess Oil, are you listening? You are not welcome here. The Bay is not for sale. Walking their talk. This is taken from the Hess Oil website. Hess Oil's corporate social responsibility policy affirms their commitment to identify and understand the potential social and cultural impacts of our operations in new areas prior to making major investments. Where is the study on the impact across the spectrum of those that would be affected in the Bay in Rhode Island and the Rhode Island state as a whole? I've not seen it. Having observed the effect of the passage of large ships in the extremely busy bay for over 30 years, it's clear to me that the LNG tankers passing through the bay over 100 times a year would have serious negative social, cultural, and economic impacts on the state and those who depend on the bay in its current form. Hess Oil's own policy, social responsibility policy, should preclude them from making the investment in the energy facility. Well, they've been at it for 8 years, assuredly spending millions of dollars to try to force this proposal down our throats in Rhode Island. Hess Oil is ignoring their own stated policy, but worse and more importantly, they ignore the clear will of an overwhelming majority of the communities along the bay and of most Rhode Islanders. The next section is called Promises. Promises has been covered by earlier testimony about what is really surely speculation that our oil prices or our energy prices will go down as a result of this LNG facility. That is purely speculation. No one has a crystal ball, especially in the volatile global energy market. States' rights and the Bill of Rights. On their corporate policy page, there's also reference to respect for UN structures and international agreements, the UN Declaration of Human Rights, the UN Global Compact, the Voluntary Principles on Security and Human Rights, and the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. Oh, that sounds great. But people of Rhode Island, please hear this. There is nothing in Hess policy on their corporate responsibility page about honoring the individual sovereign rights of U.S. states, including ours, which was amongst the first, I believe, to sign the Declaration of Independence. And there is nothing here in Hess Oil's website about social responsibility, about the sovereign rights of individual Americans living under the U.S. Constitution and living here in Rhode Island. I'd like to be crystal clear to Hess Oil. Our right as a sovereign state of this union and our rights as individuals trump those of Hess Oil today and forever. The U.S. Constitution and the Bill of Rights was not written for Hess Oil. was written to protect the people from tyranny of kings and corporations, and we, the sovereign people of the sovereign state of Rhode Island, will stop Hess because the bay is not for sale. I'm going to skip this section in the interest of time, but it is in the printed testimony that I've circulated. All of us can remember the policy put forward by the previous administration to turn over our harbors and ports across this nation to Dubai Ports World from the UAE. Well, that makes about as much sense to me, doing that, as this proposal here. And the more we learn about it from all those who've given testimony today, the more we see what a misguided, dangerous, and irresponsible proposal and project this is. I should also point out that this battle is being waged in courtrooms, and that Hess Oil is being represented by Baker Botts. Now, I believe in everyone's right to be represented in the court of law, but Baker Botts of James Baker is the same one who led the fight in Florida in 2000. It's the same Baker Botts that's defending the Saudi royal family and others in Saudi Arabia from claims and a lawsuit by 9/11 victim family members that these Saudis helped finance terrorism in the run-up to 9/11. These facts about Baker Botts, the representation of Hess Oil, should get everyone pause in Rhode Island. It certainly doesn't sit well with me. Knowing these facts and applying common sense means saying no to Hess Oil. The people of Rhode Island are insisting that the bay is not for sale. Now, I'll try to summarize this next point. It's 3 strikes. The 2009 Newsweek Green ranking of America's largest 500 companies put Hess, this is last year, at 346. That's the bottom third of the largest 500 companies. And not too far below Hess is the infamous Exxon, which is at 395, which failed to keep its promises to the people of Alaska all these years after the catastrophe of the Exxon Valdez. Out of 30 companies in the oil gas sector, Hess ranked 20th, just 6 notches ahead of Exxon Mobil. Tops is Marathon, which ranked number 100 out of 500. Strike 1, we're talking about strikes. Strike 1, this is Hess Oil's record as a company, poisoning groundwater in New York State. Last October, Exxon was ordered to pay, this is Exxon, $105 million in damages for knowingly contaminating New York City's groundwater with an additive. Hess Oil effectively admitted its own guilt in poisoning New York's groundwater when it settled the lawsuit out of court. Strike 1. This is reported on Reuters, October 21st, 2009. Strike 2. I'll wrap up. Strike 2, tyranny for profit in the tropics. This has to do with a Human Rights Watch report about the activity of big oil in Equatorial New Guinea, saying that basically oil business had managed to strengthen the dictatorship there. Strike 3 is sort of an open question, has to do with the destruction of the great Amazon River Basin, where roughly 72% of the river basin is now open for oil and gas exploration. Perhaps strike 3 is here in Rhode Island. I hope not. So obviously, with these strikes against Hess and the suspect record, the Attorney Generals, in my view, and the Secretaries of State of Rhode Island and Massachusetts should, if Hess Oil persists in pushing this needly and risky plan, act immediately to revoke or any state permits or corporate charters granting them the rights to operate in Rhode Island and Massachusetts. Surely they don't deserve the right, given their track record and given all the problems with their testimony and all the testimony against this project. Alternatively, legislation must be passed prohibiting the passage of these ships with nary 5 feet of clearance under the Mount Hope Bridge, if that is necessary. So bottom line, given it's clear that the will of the people is to protect the bay, its unique character, the legislature, I would hope that the legislature and the executive of these 2 great states act in concert to ensure the rights of the state and the people to prevail over the right of big oil and gas to relentlessly and recklessly pursue profit at our expense. The people of Rhode Island have spoken again, and they say to Hess Oil yet again, the bay is not for sale. Let the people stand up for what is right, and let the government of Rhode Island represent the will of the people.
Thank you very much, if you will, sir. Okay, and identify yourself for the television audience.
Okay, my name is John Keppel. I'm a resident of Fall River. The person next to me is Mike Mioza. We're sort of a tag team.
Okay.
Here I'm doing the introduction. He's going to follow up with the science. Mike is a board-certified safety professional, and we're going to give you something a little bit different than what you've heard so far. Some very concrete, and somebody was asking for science earlier, and you're going to get it.